and we're gonna welcome in Panda. Panda here. How are you feeling going into this last and final win-in?
I mean, after that Shellfolk performance and after Alan qualifying, relieved, very happy, and coming into this match as well, just extremely excited. I mean, Szychu with his lineup, Majinbae, his kind of record in the past year in Runeterra, for this to be the deciding match of the day and deciding match of that group is going to be very, very exciting, I think.
Wait no longer. Let's just jump right into it. Majinbae, I'm gonna let you take it away.
Yo, the one downside to this amazing series is now I gotta hear you gloat about it for a while, right?
Maybe in private. I'm gonna pretend that I don't care right now, but maybe later
great.
You're gonna hear a few things.
Looking forward to it. All right, but you know what I'm looking forward to even more? This matchup right here. I think it's amazing that this is like the last match of the day because this match is just so unbelievably hyped for me. Because you Szychu with the amazing, like my favorite lineup from this tournament. Just without a doubt, and Majinbae, a beast of a player, one of the favorites, especially from the NA region, to just take it all. And only one of these two will advance to the top 8.
If there's ever a time you're going to think, these events might be scripted, this is it, because this is, the best, right. I think, ending to today with just two great players, two great lineups, two great storylines, and just a win or die moment for both of these players. And not only that, but if Szychu wins, that means there's 3 European players qualified to top 8 and 3 Americas players. So it's just complete parity in that kind of regional rivalry as well. So it would be the perfect storyline, of course. But Szychu's lineup, we're seeing it here. Zoe, Heimerdinger. That is not a technical or graphical glitch. This is the actual deck he has brought to the tournament.
How
Feel
dare
the
you
rush.
exalt Dinger?
And
how dare you?
Caitlyn Draven. It's a very good deck. We've seen Szychu perform with it, really well today. And this is a deck that, we're going to look at Majinbae's lineup, but Majinbae is scared of. This is a deck that is countering his lineup to some degree.
Oh, definitely. Like I can see. I mean, the Zoe Nami, that's a bit of a stretch. I do believe that's a very likely ban coming from Szychu here, but the Draven Scion and the Rally deck definitely can be. We've actually seen how Heimerdinger was able to take down. I mean, unless you top deck, 3 Lulus and top deck a Lulu right at the right time to shut down a Great Beyond. We've seen that Heimerdinger can actually be a menace to these sort of Bandle Tree swarmy decks. And when it comes to Majinbae, his lineup is definitely much more standard. We see the infamous Draven Scion and the Zoe Nami. I think Majinbae's lineup is honestly the scariest for me because all 3 decks are bannable because of how good they are. And you can only take away 1. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Szychu approaches this. What do you expect Szychu to take out here?
Well, in the same way that the kind of the optimal lineup in the qualifiers was, Nami, Zoe, Draven, Scion, and Sipper Auction, I think now this Lulu Rally deck has taken over that and kind of the theoretical standpoint of optimal lineup, best matchups, scariest thing to face in terms of what do I ban because everything is so good. So in that line, I think Majinbae did a very good job of preparing, or at least getting some help from his teammate What Am I, because they have the same exact lineup, and What Am I went 3-0, so that's already a pretty clutch reasoning going into this day. But the ban is going to be Zoe Heimer and the Rally deck on Majinbae's side. Zoe Heimer was obvious. It has an auto-win matchup against Draven Scion. You have so many ways to stun and sunburst and deal with Scion and just control the board with Heimerdinger's turrets. And obviously Heimerdinger is just out of range of most of the kill spells in the Draven Scion list. The interesting matchup here that I want to go over, Mogwai, is going to be the possible Draven Scion into the Feel the Rush deck. You would think that this Feel the Rush deck is teched towards Draven Scion. It has freezes, it has flash freezes, and it has, archers. It doesn't. There are absolutely no freezes in this deck, and that makes that matchup actually maybe even good for Scion.
Definitely, like you could definitely see that this Feel the Rush deck is actually more geared towards Nami. So not shocked to not see the Nami ban right there. We were mentioning it earlier, but it is main decking 2 copies of Despair. But before that, I just really want to mention Szychu looks absolutely mentally devastated by having his Donger banned. That's not a bad word, right?
No, don't worry.
Thank you.
But asking the question makes it a worse word than it was if you would have not, got into the topic.
I just needed to know at this point. I'm like, if I screwed up, I screwed up,
We're going to see Feel the Rush in hand already for Szychu. He has obviously the enormous, powerful spell. No Ionian in the meta, so it's going to go through most of the time. We're going to see here the Draven list for Majin to start things off in game 1.
That Avalanche is looking really threatening. Gonna represent a lot of value potentially. It depends on how much Majinbae opts to spread, but obviously looking at his hand, his 1-2-3 here is pretty straightforward. He does go for the attack beforehand. We could see a ramp here from Szychu, and that is indeed what happens.
And it's usually the case where, on turn 3, on turn 4, it's if my opponent open attacks, you ramp. If my opponent develops, you avalanche. That's,
Yes.
It's if you've been playing Runeterra for some amount of time, you've been playing against some kind of Shadow Isles Freljord control deck, in every single meta, and that's how it goes on turn 3.
We're definitely going to be expecting a lot of passing here from Szychu. He's the reactive player, and he has to, whenever he's down on mana, kind of has to return the ball to him, and we're going to see this Avalanche go down now, definitely setting up that Draven to go down to a Vile Feast as well.
And we have some Grasp of the Undyings in hand as well, a card that we haven't seen so much in recent metas. It's kind of been power crept to some extent, doesn't feel as powerful as it used to in kind of the beta or the vanilla days of Runeterra. But we do see some very strong cards like Field of Rush, Double Field of Rush, and the Tryndamere coming into hand as well, which is kind of like Scion, but more expensive to some degree. It's, again, the biggest thing to note here, I think, is the lack of freezes against a Scion coming down on curve. It's going to be very hard to stop that damage from coming through.
Some Dredger going down, sucking through the deck. And there is the Grasp of the Undying and a Vile Feast just cleaning up this board and getting him up to almost full HP.
And this is what this deck is all about. Control the board, have drain spells that give you your health back from the early turns where you couldn't really, play onto the board because that's not your game plan, and then come in the late game with unstoppable overwhelm units like Tryndamere and Trundle once he's leveled up and take over the game.
And that's one of the things, man. Like right now, we were really wondering if this deck would be able to, but it's kind of like to be able to survive, right? But it's past the most dangerous part of the game, and we're getting to a point where, first of all, I just gotta stop what I'm saying because I just realized that box.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Box
that box
is a card that in this meta, when you're playing Mayor and then playing Telescope and then playing, the 0 mana Poro and Fizz, Box is a pretty good card. It's a very good meta call to bring a deck like this one because it has versatile answers, kind of a toolbox type control deck that really has answers to almost everything in the meta. And Szychu opted not to bring flashes. That was kind of the one trade-off, but he has answers to pretty much every other different kind of threat in many different decks. In this case, no Scion means that there's no really tall unit you want to freeze, but he has control for the kind of the wider boards with Ruination, with the box, and with the Avalanche we saw earlier.
I think Szychu is forced to play the box here. He can't pass. If he passes, he loses too much momentum. He wants to get a little bit more, but you can't get greedy.
Yeah.
You're taking out Draven and Bizan out here. That's just good enough value. This Physician is not really threatening. You can even chump block it if you need to. But getting rid of the Draven and really minimizing the impact of that board, yeah, the 4-2 with Fearsome is going to come down, but you can potentially even Grasp of the Undying it if you were to need to do that, but I don't even know if that's a necessity at this point. And we're getting close. A couple of turns from now, it's Field of Rush time, and I think that just almost wins.
No Scion to be seen. That's the biggest thing. No Scion. 19
Yes.
HP still for Szychu. Looking at the hands and comparing top ends, I think there's no comparison here. We see double Tryndamere, double Field of Rush for Nation. I mean, this deck is geared towards these next few turns. Tryndamere comes down. For those viewers at home who maybe have forgotten what Tryndamere does, he does have a level 2 that comes out when he dies. So this is kind of like Scion. I mentioned the comparison wasn't just kind of sarcastically comparing the mana values, but also the effects they have. It is somewhat similar, but Tryndamere's second copy, of course, it's a 9/9 that isn't ephemeral. It'll come back. No rally effect, of course, but still a very big body you have to deal with twice.
And it got buffed, ladies and gentlemen. Now it has tough, which is not very relevant, but
What do you mean it's not relevant? There might be a Whirling Death, Get Excited, Mystic Shot that wouldn't be enough to kill it. I think it's very relevant.
True. Yeah, you know what? I'm just awful. I take that back.
It is still a very wide board. Here, Ruination, you can cast it and kill off Tryndamere, and you're kind of fine because he comes back, of course. The biggest thing with this deck is obviously you're playing into two kind of things. If you go very wide, there's these huge punishes. If you don't go wide enough, there's going to be these single target answers like Vile Feast and like Grasp of the Undying to deal with the kind of the smaller attack.
I think you definitely block with Tryndamere here. You're worried. Oh, maybe he does have access to stuff like Scorched Earth, and he's playing at least a couple of them, right? So, but that's the only thing that he's really gonna worry about. And this Field of Rush is just so much value But he's gonna be able to clear this Tryndamere. He's actually gonna be able to clear Tryndamere.
You have another one in hand. That's the thing that Szychu is. Do you see him sweating? No, because he has just so many more. Like there's not just this one thread that once it's taken down, his game's over. He just has everything lined up for the next few turns as well. And there's not pressure from Majinbae. He's down to burn spells, to Fallen Riders, and to no Scion yet.
He's at 15, ladies and gentlemen. Szychu is at 15, and we are gonna see a bit of a mini concert going down here as a 10-10 Trundle
There's
and
a
10-10
Scion.
Tryndamere are coming in. There it is. All right, it's Big Boy versus Big Boy. The ultimate showdown, heavyweights. Let's go.
Majinbae is not happy, and I think no one ever is once they see Feel the Rush being played against them, because this is obviously, the biggest spell in the game for a reason. You're bringing out two enormous champions with great keywords at a very high attack and health total, and very few decks and very few game plans can deal with this kind of threat.
But we mentioned Scion. Scion actually can trade into the Trundle. It does hold the Trundle back, but I mean Trundle doesn't have overwhelm, so it's not like it could have been chumped by anything. To be completely honest, like he's winning through overwhelm damage. The tough.
Mogwai.
I said the tough was not relevant, but the tough.
I was waiting until you would notice how relevant the tough is. So you're eating your own words from 2 minutes ago, because the devs balanced Tryndamere for this moment.
Dude, I was mocking it. It's actually super relevant here.
They knew Szychu would bring Feel the Rush to Worlds, and this buff is actually extremely relevant for a champion that has been, for the most part, forgotten, has been memed about in the past few months. But Szychu is proving that these forgotten champions are still very, very strong.
And the thing is, because Trundle did not level up, now when he plays the Ice Pillar, it will be an 11 health with regeneration, which means that it can actually block into Scion as well.
Another Tryndamere.
And live. Ooh, Battle Fury. He didn't even need to attack there, to be honest, because if he does things right, considering there's already been one Scorched Earth going down. This is, I believe it may only be one Scorched Earth, because I was looking at the Draven Caitlyn list instead. So
I will
looking
answer
at
that question.
Majinbae's lineup, it is one Scorched Earth. There's no other way for him to deal with these big units.
And this is something that when I spoke to Majinbae before the tournament started, he told me that he was actually celebrating his birthday at Disneyland during the prep phase of this tournament, and he was kind of worried because a lot of players with their Draven Scion lists have kind of adapted it and added a lot of tech cards. They've added fervors, they've added decimates, they've changed things around, and he was scared they wouldn't have the right tech cards going into the tournament meta that we're seeing today. So this was definitely something that he had on his mind, and he thought he might have been a bit behind on.
I mean, this lineup is hard to predict.
That's definitely true. I think if you asked 100 pro players in Runeterra, there would be no one coming even close to guessing a lineup like the one Szychu has brought.
I could not help but just like I said, he became my favorite player of the tournament just because of his lineup. And that Heimerdinger game was amazing. And here we're gonna see Scion actually taking down the Ice Pillar. Majinbae trying to sneak in some damage here and there and see if he can find a way to get somehow some win with Scion here. But the problem is he's got one big dude,
Mogwai.
and Szychu has two.
Mogwai.
And there's another Feel the Rush.
It's happening, Majinbae. Oh, it's just a Withering Way. Okay, never mind. I thought somehow the battle period would be going onto the pillar. That would have been an interesting moment. But no, it will be the Withering Way. I think that does make a lot more sense. You heal back up if you're Szychu. You deal with the elusives that would be chipping damage little by little. You hit the box here as well, taking down
clean.
2 more units on Majinbae's side of the board. And still, these enormous champions are on the side of Szychu and ready with the attack token now, with the Battle Fury now as well.
Yep.
To push
I think
even
it's over.
more damage through. Look at this buff onto the Trundle. How do you stop this? It's going to be 5 damage coming in through Tryndamere. It's going to be 13 damage coming in
It's
through
hilarious.
Trundle.
You actually have to block. The fearsome means he has to block it with
And
Scion.
there's nothing you can do. Battle Fury means that even if you're at 20 health for Majinbae, it's not enough. These champions are unstoppable. And Szychu takes game 1 in this series with Feel the Rush against Raven Scion. The old meta taking on the new and showing it, why these champions were so respected in the past.
Amazing. Like people were mocking Feel the Rush. And not only Twitch chat, I'm not gonna point any fingers, but also some of the fellow casters, like, okay, this is a bit of a suspect deck, and yeah, it's actually like I think the 2 times that I've seen it, it's won immediately. It's doing really, really well. We didn't get to see it against Nami, but it was tech for Nami with a double despair. But definitely still a bit of a scary matchup nonetheless, because a lot of its removal is damage based, and Nami can definitely navigate around that, right? But now he has a more reliable reactive deck, I believe. One that's a little bit sharper at killing certain threats. But obviously, first of all, Majin is going to queue in Sion Draven, because Sion Draven has an excellent matchup against Draven Caitlyn.
Exactly. This is a very favored matchup for Majinbae. It would be very surprising if Szychu somehow managed to find a line to win this, because there's just, you don't have the right answers for something like a Sion in this deck. You have a lot of removal, but Sion's a unit that, if removed, he just comes back bigger and stronger, and I guess ephemeral as well, but with a rally effect to accompany.
Very significant Svan going down, stopping the House Fighter from attacking, also giving Majinbae the Draven draw, which is very, very key here. As he has a couple of Get Exciteds that really need those axes.
Look at the hand, you would, if the Sion wasn't there, you would almost think this is also Draven Caitlyn
Yeah.
from Majin. Has a lot of control tools. You tend to see more of the explosive, Fallen Riders, Great Physicians, and the whole discard package with Lost Soul. But in this case, a very removal heavy hand here with Get Exciteds and with Mystic Shots.
If we see Aloof Travelers go down here on turn 4, he will get rid of Sion. I mean, it does progress Sion's level up, but it still nets some card advantage.
And it's still, you have to count on drawing that Sion later on, and sometimes, we've seen it with Lee Sin, we've seen it with these very champion-focused decks. If you don't find it later on, you're going to be in trouble.
He may be respecting the Lost Soul, though. He may be a little bit worried about that. But he passes back, and he respects it, and instead plays the Sump Dredger. Does not want to give him a free Revenant.
And he might just
Sump Fumes. Yep. Nice.
I think he's going to want to wait to play the Aloof on turn 6. He wants to wait because if Majinbae has Lost Soul in hand, he wants to get the value from this Lost Soul as soon as possible. Something that you don't want to wait till later. So at some point between turn 4 and 6, he's going to try and discard the Lost Soul, get the Twin Blade Revenant on the board, and at that moment, there won't be this, get down Mr. Present, meat shield, helping Sion stay in the hand. And once, you have a very small window of time, but I think Szychu knows very well when that window is, and he will capitalize on it with the Aloof Travelers.
For sure, that's such a great point. You do have no reason to rush this Aloof Travelers, and the longer the game goes, the more likely it is that if he does draw into a Lost Soul, especially with 2 axes in hand, he's going to discard it to try to generate some Twin Blade Revenant value, and that's when you hunt down the Sion. As the Rider goes down here for Majinbae. Decent board state for both players, pretty even actually. Not a clear attack here from either player. You can opt to trade. Okay, he's gonna resort to the Flame Chompers. So I assume he's gonna be dragging that Twin Blade Revenant with the Flame Chomper. He's gonna get that 5 damage onto him. Important hit without a doubt.
Yeah, you have to start chipping away little by little. We've mentioned it, I think everyone that plays Runeterra know this. In the color combination of Noxus and PNZ, there is no healing. This is something that's been very relevant in so many metas, and every single bit of chip damage helps at trying to reduce that Nexus to 0.
There it is, and you know what? If Majinbae plays his own, oh my god, if Majinbae plays his own Aloof Travelers that he just top deck, he's gonna discard his Lost Soul.
Oh no, Szychu gets enabled. Second Twin Blade is now activated. The infinite train of value is reaching terminal velocity. And Majinbae cannot be happy about this. I mean, it's a match point here. This is a do or die match for him. He has to win this to stay alive and to keep his chances to get into the top 8 alive as well. And nothing is going his way in a matchup that should be favored. We talked about it at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one of the things, whenever we say a matchup is fair, this is a card game, and these are also some of the best players in the world. So there's a lot of factors going on that really will lead to the unexpected.
Exactly. And Szychu knows the exact reasons why the matchup isn't favored, and he knows exactly what kind of play patterns to navigate to try and not enable those matchups or those play patterns to really punish him.
Getting his Twin Blade Revenant, unfortunately not free. And okay, there we go.
All right,
got it
now
back.
Karma.
Got it back for it.
We got parity now. I think Szychu knows he deserved that one, to get that one back. And it tends to happen. It is pretty common. Of course, Lost Soul is an 8-mana card, so kind of the direct counter to Aloof Travelers if it is in the deck. Sion was sniped, which I think was definitely fortunate for Szychu, considering this recent top deck on turn 7 of the Lost Soul from the Aloof.
Szychu really debating what to do here. He's got a lot of options. And this is where we really see high caliber player sequencing in action. He has so many different windows here. You can develop that Arachnoid Sentry to stop the Twin Blade Revenant from trading into one of the other travelers, but that's not a trade that you're too upset about anyways. And Arachnoid Sentry can just be absolutely crucial against Scion, but he opts to go for it anyways.
I think the biggest thing we haven't touched upon yet is the fact that this version that Szychu is running has Ezreal in it, and this gives him the potential to have an alternate win condition with Ezreal's burst speed damage to the Nexus, which is something that Draven Caitlyn players, when they're playing for maximum value, they don't really have this alternate win condition. They have to just control the board, and controlling the board against Lost Soul is very difficult because you're never going to run out of resources for either player. I've seen, I casted Fight Night last Friday and I saw a mirror between Lost Souls. Let me tell you, Majinbae, the match lasted a very long time.
I forgot that this was the Ezreal variant. He just runs one Caitlyn.
Yeah, she was one of the few
Caitlyn
players
and two Ezreals
that got the split here, and this split I think will definitely benefit him in this matchup.
For sure, 100%. He can keep piling up, and if there's a bit of a stalemate, that Ezreal is a legit threat. Especially because once it's leveled up, it's not even killable by Get Excited. So
exactly.
Majinbae's interaction is quite limited to pretty much the Revenants, right? So his attack turns, and there's a lot of things that Szychu can do to navigate around that, and Ezreal can just keep pinging. He needs to get a little bit of damage on him though.
Yeah, this is all about, we talked about the chip damage, the no healing, and Ezreal. He's gonna get burst speed kills, of course, but this isn't the Shellfolk deck where you can just burst, with burst spells from 11 HP or 12 HP. This isn't Ezreal Karma. You can burst with Ezreal, sure, but there isn't going to be kind of this huge 20-0. It's going to be more like 8 or 9 damage total coming from Ezreal's burst speed damage.
I like how neutral you are with the Shellfolk deck. I would be obnoxious at this point.
I just spoke facts. It is the true case that Ezreal and I have seen this happen. I have performed this many times.
No, I'm complimenting you here. Like I'm saying, you're being professional about it. I wouldn't be. I would just be boasting about it like all day.
One thing that is missing for Szychu is the tri-beams. This is one of the big variants between these two decks, of course. Scion on the hand of Majinbae, and that kind of very heavy top end that can really close out games. And for Szychu, it is obviously the tri-beams being kind of the centerpiece in terms of deck building for this deck. And he hasn't found them. He has 3 copies, of course, in his deck, but none have been there in hand, kind of charging up value since the beginning. Majinbae, I think, has to be nervous, thinking that, oh no, how big is this tri-beam getting? I've just seen Draven and Sentry and all these different 3-cost cards coming down, but he's actually quite fortunate that there isn't really a big tri-beam in the hand to really swing the value in the late game.
But Szychu can take advantage of the mind games and just kind of like keep that 5 mana open, and that 5 mana just like really should scare Bae at this point. So he's got to respect that. We're going to see double relevant attack, one of them just diving into Draven, the other one picking off the elusive unit.
We talked about the chip damage. These elusives are part of that, game plan to try and sneak in a little bit of damage every turn, make things a little bit awkward for Majinbae, force him to use his own Mystic shots possibly to stop damage coming to his Nexus instead of trying to push damage onto his opponent's Nexus. So this is, a long-term war of attrition. The addition of Lost Soul into the game made it even more so. It is kind of the slowest, kind of more grinding matchup ever, where you have to try and find that small window of either board space or mana later on in the game to try and push some damage into the opponent's Nexus.
Szychu looking for a strong open attack here.
Yeah, that's what we're just talking about.
Yep. Getting rid of that last unit in the back there. Having a 6-on-3 attack. We do see Majinbae has the option to get excited into that Flame Chomper to generate a blocker and remove a unit on the board. He also has access to a Mystic Shot that could shoot down, for example, the Arachnoid Sentry as well. So he's not completely vulnerable to this attack, despite the more unit-based mid-range nature of his deck. But he's got to stall. Because right now, the win conditions, I think, are pretty clear. It is Ezreal for Szychu, and it is Scion for Majin.
This is the awkward point here for Majin, where he doesn't really have a unit play for this turn. He can't really get more blockers on the board. He doesn't want to commit. I guess that Flame Punch from hand is one way to do it, because he doesn't want to commit the mana this turn, because if he does, he just opens up a slot for the portal to come down. So it's really just useless. You want to use your spells at fast speed once the open attack is submitted on the next turn. So playing out the Flame Chompers from hand, it costs you mana. You almost never do this, but in this case, it's free because you wouldn't have used that mana anyway on this turn.
Exactly, and the get excited, it's good. Like you need to make use of these Lost Souls. You have 3 Lost Souls in hand.
And
you
now that
discard
there's
one of these to get it going.
there's no mana for the Poro, so now you change game plans. You're able to use the Get Excited before you swing to the next turn and not waste any mana. That one little bit of mana might have been relevant in terms of the tempo on the board coming into this turn.
Not a great draw there for Majin.
He's waiting for the Scion.
Yeah, he's not finding it though. Here we go, big swing. There's still Mystic Shot, so definitely expect him to. I mean, he's got some good trades, but definitely expect a Mystic Shot onto the Darkness Injury here. Szychu holding back though.
And you know one thing, Majinbae, the Mystic Shot and the Get Excited being used on these 2 turns means that there's 2 less removal spells once Ezreal comes down. So this is all about the long-term game plan for Szychu. He's forcing with this big open attack, with this pressure, and this is kind of a classic thing from these Ezreal Draven builds from back in the day. You force, you put a lot of tempo on the board, you pressure your opponent, and then you force them to make these commitments, and they can't really have any removal open up for Ezreal.
There's a lot of things to consider here with this line of play. Szychu going for the Axe here means that he has 1 less burst speed spell to capitalize on with Ezreal later. And double Scorched Earth is a little bit awkward here because there's no targets for it, and you need to you have reliable spells from when you go for the Ezreal win condition. So Szychu definitely wants to delay this match quite a bit more. He needs the game to last a little bit more. He needs a strong swing here, and he needs to find a way to just keep this rolling. He's definitely very vulnerable to a Scion top deck at this stage. Like, it's looking rough for Majin, but he's getting his Twin Blade Revenants back onto the game here, and a Scion top deck could just be really, really bad for Szychu.
We have seen 1 sentry come down on Szychu's side. He has 2 more in the deck. That would be obviously a way to stall Scion at the very least. Not to stop him entirely, not to remove him from the board, but at least to stop that 1 attack token turn where Scion can swing in. And that might be the time you need to just get Ezreal on the board and start pumping in spells.
I think something that we could both definitely agree on here is this is anybody's game at this point.
Yeah, it's going to come down to top deck. We talked about the kind of the attrition, you know, and the long-term value, and that's what it comes down to. And once you're going into this space where we're seeing the cards obviously not reduced to 0 because the Lost Souls will continue cycling each other, but it's going to come down to top decks and who finds that really powerful power play later on. Still no Tribune for Szychu, and that's kind of the really thing that you count on to swing the game going into this much mana later on.
Yeah, but not a great draw for Majin here with that Twin Rider. Not really, the Fallen Rider, sorry, not really what you want to see the Twin Rider. I mixed it with the Revenant. Oh, come on! That could happen to anybody.
I mean, maybe yes, but especially to you.
Oh, wow, thank you. Appreciate it.
And things have definitely slowed down now, I think. You know, it tends to happen once the Twin Blades are just slowing things down, challenging any kind of big threat. We're seeing a Poro Cannon, which is relevant to have kind of these discard activators for the Lost Souls as they come back into hand. Caitlyn is cute here, but obviously the traps and her effect overall with Quick Attack isn't extremely relevant going into this stage.
I'd argue it is. It enables these Scorched Earths potentially if the game darks out. Like, actually, this Caitlyn may be crucial here for Szychu. He draws into a Get Excited as well, which is good to have with Ezreal, so he can keep that Poro in hand, actually, potentially, and keep it as a discard fodder if he were to need it, even though these Revenants will actually take that role, so never mind. But definitely good to get, you know, it's definitely, like, no, don't get me wrong, it's definitely late for Caitlyn, but better late than never in this case. Very, very key. These traps are important.
I think for any viewers at home who are maybe not completely sold on why a lot of pro players were saying that Lost Soul was a very, very strong card, possibly the strongest card in the game right now, I think this game will do a very good job of highlighting exactly why this card is considered so strong by so many top players. It is just an infinite value engine. When you're looking at it, you know, just looking at the numbers, looking at how the card works, you might not think too much of it, but in a deck like Ezreal Draven that really tries to grind their opponent out, it used to have this Farron top end and this Ezreal top end, and that's shifted because when you have an infinite control tool like Twin Blade Revenant in terms of value and board control, it's just crazy.
Speak of the devil! Look who's here!
Farron, and this is Szychu that runs. He's sticking to some old classic with Ezreal and Farron. He did not give up on the units that he's been playing this deck a lot. I think he really believes in these units, and they're gonna do a lot for him here.
Doesn't this kind of like force out the Mystic into Scorched Earth?
It does. You have to do it.
Right? That's crazy. Like, that's like, this Ezreal's gonna have no answers. That is amazing.
Well,
it is a
except for the Twin Blade Revenant. So you're gonna have
Yeah, but I mean, like from spells, like on the turn that you have the attack token, he won't have to worry about his Ezreal being taken down. Wow.
Mogwai.
Especially because this this Scorcher is a one-off.
Is only one part of the package. Decimates are parts 2 and 3 of that book, and we talked about Ezreal and Draven in these color combos not having any heal, no denial spells, no heal. What do you do to stop Decimate at this point in the game where we talked about War of Attrition, things grinding out, everything getting super slow now with the Twin Blade Revenants? Something's going to speed up this game. It's going to be a 4-mana Decimate or a 5-mana Decimate, 4 points of damage going to face. Time Winder can also go face. Get Excited can also go face. Burn is in hand. That's lethal.
He's got lethal in hand, and now Ezreal comes down. There is no answer, I believe, here unless he topped it. He topped like Scion finally, but a little bit too late.
When Scion swings in on the next turn, Ezreal wins it at fast speed with Get Excited and Time Winder. You can play the Ezreal now. You can swing in with Mystic Shot.
You can Time Winder the Poro away too. You can Time Winder the only elusive blocker away for Ezreal and get the value from like the Mystic Shot going as well. This is amazing for Szychu.
And Szychu's proving
actually amazing.
He stuck to part of the old formula of this deck. He didn't fully transfer like most players have, and he's being rewarded in this matchup.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. This Time Wander is going to deal a lot of damage. Not only 1/1 pings, but also 2 damage to the Nexus. Or, no, just taking out the blockers. What am I talking about? Get that Rider out of here. Oh, my Lord. This is over. This is so... Oh, wow. He actually overcame a really tough matchup. Szychu going to get a dominating 2-0 performance after that devastating round 1 loss to Kevin Lore. He brings it back, and the polls are in the top 8, ladies and gentlemen.
It's not lethal quite yet, but with the Decimate in hand, once the spell's committed, we talked about there's no denial in this color combo, there's no healing, there's nothing that Majinbae can do here. We can see it Get Excited, we can see a Mystic Shot, both going to face. Ezreal on the board as well. Szychu, 2-0 sweep of an incredibly strong player in Majinbae, and he advances to top 8 of Worlds.
Outstanding. Szychu in the top 8, and we got it. Raise your doggers, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see your doggers in the chat. It's still not. It's a good word, right? Okay, yeah, raise them.
And Szychu proving everyone wrong. When I saw his lineup, I'm like, this guy is absolutely crazy, but I respect him as a player. I knew something was up, and he is showing us why he brought these decks with the crazy wins he has and drawing a ban onto Heimerdinger, something I never thought I would say going into Worlds.
Love it. This is better. Like, it's one of those cases where reality surpasses fiction, man. This has been amazing. This day has been crazy. This day is crazy.
I am enjoying the timeline that we are in right now, and especially thinking about what we are looking forward to tomorrow. Day 2 was just full of spice. I can't believe some of the deck lists that we got a chance to see, and the performance specifically that Szychu put on in that last set. I mean, you were both so excited about it. Panda, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, especially about the fact that it was a very old style of decks.
Very old. I mean, Trundle Tryndamere is kind of a 1-year-old boogeyman that everyone was scared of at some point. Then it kind of got phased out. Power crap. There were scarier things in the meta. But Szychu is proving to us that these champions that everyone has forgotten about are still very scary with the right build, in the right tournament meta, and looking at specific matchups like with the ones we saw today. And really, I mean, great performance from Szychu. I think the parity in the Americas versus Europe rivalry is also great to see here, with now 3 players qualifying from Europe today, 3 players yesterday from Americas, and 2 Asian players as well. So really, there could not have been a better end to the tournament. I think Majinbae not making the top 8 is unfortunate. I think he's a very, very strong player and someone that I respect a lot. But overall, it's been a great day of Runeterra.
Just get Swim in here. That's all I'm gonna say. Because he said something before, and I haven't forgotten.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're gonna get to that soon. I promise, Mogwai, you'll be able to have those words with Swim. But Mogwai and Panda, thank you so much for taking us through that final match of the day. We're gonna go ahead and go to the final standings. We know the 8 players that are moving on to day number 3, and just to catch you up to speed with what happened in day 2, for Group C, it is Alan and Yamato making it forward, and Group D, it is Szychu and Odyssey. These have been incredible performances from all of these players that performed today. And yesterday, we have seen some incredible action, and the group stages have definitely not disappointed when it has come to the action that we have seen so far. But I want to hear everybody's final thoughts. We're going to pull in all of our casters that took you through the action today. And, you know, what were you excited about? What was your favorite part of the day? And maybe what are you looking forward to? We're going to bring everybody in and hear what they've got to say. Casanova, let's start with you.
Well, you know, I got it. Unfortunately, we went from 3-0 to 0-3 for the Americas today. Little unlucky, but I'm not upset because we got the 3 spiciest lineups through, I think, with Szychu, Allen, and Yamato. And I think, you know, also, Szychu and Allen, they have some competitive experience in a game that I originally was known for and went pro in. And I got to support my boys from that game as well. And I know that I'm excited to see people coming from there and having a lot of success, though. The Polish boys are popping off.
And I'm really looking forward to the top 8 lineup tomorrow. In fact, I'm really looking forward to seeing if Darkness can eke out another win. Probably my favorite deck we've seen today, the surprise champion there. We also did get to see that Shellfolk deck with it had a stellar performance with all those Mystic shots.
I mean, we've been talking a lot about just the decks and the really weird lineups that we weren't expecting to see today, but there's also a few cards that made some guest appearances. We saw Slippery Wave Rider and the Snapvine, you know, making an appearance at Worlds. Every single card in Runeterra is Worlds viable. You've heard it here first. I want to see everybody spamming that Snapvine now.
You know, and talking beside, you know, deck list and cards specifically, I think today, if there was one word to use to describe it, is redemption. Not only for Europe, we talk a lot about Europe, but we had a European player qualify yesterday, Gosimo. Today was also a big redemption day for the Asian region. The first 2 players who qualified were actually from Japan and from the C region, and they did exceptionally well. And one of them pilots Darkness, which just makes me a fan immediately. So hyped for tomorrow. I can't wait. And I want to hear what Sue has to say as well. So
I was telling Majinbae about this, you know, almost looking scripted, how perfect the ending was, I think, in terms of, you know, the region parity, in terms of players like Allen and Szychu, who have, like Majinbae said before, not had the most success in terms of what you would think they would do with their, I think, the level they show on every tournament. Things just did not go their way, but today, finally, they make it to top 8. I think they're fan favorites in Europe, so it's going to be great for the whole European scene as well. And Shellfolk, a deck that I might have been the reason Alan brought us to this tournament, got 2 bans and got a win, so I am ecstatic about that as well. I think it's a super fun deck to see in action as well. And hopefully in top 8, it continues to upset some players.
For sure, yeah. For me, I'm a fan of regional parity as much as I was, you know, really hoping we could just get, you know, 6 Americas players in the top 8 and just, you know, bask in the glory. I'll have to settle for the world champion being from the Americas, you know. So that's good enough for me, I guess, realistically. But yeah, it's great that, you know, we had a Japanese and a Thai player come through. We had you know, the Polish pair come in as well. So, you know, good job on that side. Plus Cosimo yesterday, and yeah, 2 Americans and a Brazilian back on day 1. So you know, I'm glad we've got a bunch of different representation. I'm also glad we have different deck representation. I think it's like only 3 Zoe Nami decks that got through. So I keep seeing like Reddit and Twitter pop off about how this deck's broken, and yet there's only 3 in the top 8. So I mean, it must not be that good. Meanwhile, yeah, we got to see Darkness come through and everything else. So it's fun to see like a lot of variety.
Yeah, I mean, overall, you know, we had, you know, North America and America's regions in general had a pretty strong showing in day 1, but as mentioned, didn't quite perform today, and ends up, just as Freak mentioned, I mean, there's 3 competitors from the Americas, 3 from EU, and 2 from Asia. I mean, it's incredibly even going into day 3, the top 8, and I'm just excited to see who takes it.
Well, thank you so much to all of our incredible casters for bringing life to all of the plays and all of the stories that we had today. We're gonna go let you get some well-deserved rest, but we'll see you all back tomorrow to bring us through the action of day number 3. And I am just so looking forward to what day 3 has to bring. We're gonna go ahead and pull up that schedule for everybody just to walk you through everything that has happened so far for these last 2 days of competition. We already got through the group stages where yesterday we saw groups A and B competing, and today groups C and D, to take us to our top 8 players that are going to be competing tomorrow in day 3's single elimination bracket. We've got What Am I, Odyssey, Alan, Cosimo, Aikado, Yamato, Szychu, and Realkey that are all going to be battling it out to see who will be crowned the Legends of Runeterra World Champion. I am so excited to see what's going to happen tomorrow, but thank you so much to everybody that tuned in today. Thank you so much to all of our incredible players that have participated throughout the World Championship. I hope you all tune in tomorrow to hear some new storylines, create some history, and see who will be crowned the Legends of Runeterra World Champion.
Ooh, 13 coming through and getting Alan down to 6. He's got a heal, and he has an elusive finisher.
Yeah, he lets it through. You're so right, Andy. This is definitely the right decision.
That's lethal just with the attackers. Never mind that there is burn to the face that Jello has stolen here. And Jello getting the win for Chile in the first round. Love to see that. Feel the rush finish. Here comes the ice storm, and everything is dead. Swinging in for double lethal.
Dominant victory from Odyssey after that backbreaking game 1 and just taking out one of the favorites in the tournament. But
This one did from 0 to 100 real quick, and Alan is going to find the victory, making this group have everyone at 1-1 freak. It's a full-on reset. Every single match is the most impactful match.
He knows he doesn't have a way out. He's trying to draw. The saddest thing about this is Cello. We won't even get to see the third warning shot because the first warning shot deals 6. The second one deals 2. That one's it. And Cello is out of here. Yamato.
But oh no, does he lose lethal? No, because he has this sharp side. Never mind. He has the sharp side. This is over. This is actually over.
Alan with a clean 2-0, advancing to day 3 to top 8. You know he loves it, and I'm so glad that we got to see Shell Folk.
In this color combo, there's no healing, there's nothing that Majinbae can do here. We can see it get excited, we can see a missing shot, both going to face Ezreal on the board as well. Szychu 2-0 sweep of an incredibly strong player in Majinbae, and he advances to top 8 of Worlds.
Outstanding. Szychu in the top 8, and we got it. Raise your doggers, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see your doggers in the chat.